Hey, everybody, it's David J. Murphy here with another filmmaker interview. I'm talking to the director of Spin Wars, Philip Byron. This film made its debut at the Tribeca Film Festival, and I was lucky enough to watch it. Philip, can you tell me a little bit about what your film is about?
Certainly, yes, and nice to meet you. The film is really about the boutique fitness revolution through the lens of SoulCycle, Flywheel, and Peloton, which were the kind of titans of indoor cycling. But really, it's looking at how it all started. How did we get to a place where three massive companies were birthed around rooms of bikes that don't go anywhere and charging, pretty penny for a 45-minute experience. And seeing how exclusivity can kind of go awry, and really focused on that kind of 2006 to 2016 era, and very perfect for New York because it was a super New York story as well.
Indeed, absolutely. Talk to me about how this documentary got started. What was the impetus for it?
Yeah, certainly. So I worked at Spring Hill for about 10 years running documentaries and unscripted. And during a lot of my time there, I actually used to moonlight as a indoor cycling instructor.
Oh,
And
wow. Okay.
I would teach in the mornings before work. I found indoor cycling, funny enough, in New York City when I was living there, just at the local New York Sports Club. And always loved it. When I got to LA, I would do Soul Cycle, do Flywheel. My sister-in-law, got me into Peloton. And, a colleague and I were talking about all of these documentaries happening in like around 2020, around like WeWork and HQ Trivia and Abercrombie and Fitch. And there were a lot of these just like business story brands of a certain era kind of gone wrong. And she brought up Soul Cycle. And given my 5 years of teaching, I was like, well, I know a lot about that. And said the first person we need to talk to is Ruth Zuckerman, who was a co-founder of Soul Cycle and ultimately became a co-founder of Flywheel. And it really started with a call with her and getting her on board to tell her story. And then once we had Ruth, it kind of, spiraled from there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I'd not really followed this community. I mean, I know like my local gym had a spin class or something in it, nothing branded or anything like that. But the spin movement I know is very popular, but I didn't know obviously all the machinations that went on behind the scenes and how kind of like there was a lot of intrigue and people getting like kicked out of various groups and the whole thing with Ruth, I think, being sort of excised from her partnership was pretty, sad in a way because it's like it seems like an only positive thing, right? It's about health and fitness, and it's very, very successful. But there's this sort of very dark side to it all. What were some of the things that you discovered in doing this documentary that were kind of revelatory to you?
Oh, that's a great question. I think one thing I never thought about when I would teach is there aren't many jobs where you show up in shorts and a tank top and, you know, positively charge people up, ideally in a very optimistic way, although there are many instructors who, are a bit more drill sergeant-y. And realizing that that is a job that folks have, it's already kind of an odd space. And what does that cultivate as an environment where things can get a little blurry and go awry was one thing. And then the second thing is really around the connection with your clients. Ultimately, most instructors, and it's changed over the years, but they get compensated based off of how many people are in their class. And so this
Interesting.
idea of Dave, come to my class. Like, you're great. You're awesome. Like, is that coming from an authentic place or is that coming from a place that I want Dave to come to my class because it's going to be an extra $5 in my
Yeah.
pocket? And I think that was something we really tried to explore and how that can fuel like the ego of an instructor. Um, so those are things that I think witnessed, um, an experience myself, but I didn't really process that until it actually came to making the movie.
Yeah, no, I think the documentary does a great job exploring how the spin class was not just a spin class led by an instructor, it was a cult of personality, and each of these instructors had their own followings. So I do wonder how much it was necessarily someone being encouraged to join and someone just wanting to be around this person and their personality and like magnetically drawn to them, right?
Correct. I mean, I even at Tribeca had a current Soul Cycle instructor come up to me after the movie and say, "You should come ride in my class this Saturday." Which, again, I don't know the purpose of that, but it's one of those things where now I think about that in a different way.
Right. Now you see the darker underbelly of
Yeah.
the Soul Cycle community. Do you still Soul Cycle or do you still do the indoor cycling?
I have an at-home bike, which is great, and I use. I've gone to Soul Cycle in the last year. I've ridden on many a Peloton. For any of my friends who have them, when I'm staying with them, I definitely pop on those. So I still love it. I've had a great experience at all of those brands. But I think this year I found myself more doing like just basic gym stuff, since my life's been a little consumed by stationary bikes.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. For obvious reasons. So,
Yeah.
a lot of people produce documentaries to sort of drive a call to action or to kind of leave people with sort of a lasting impression or sort of like a feeling to do something or take action. Is there that with this film? And if so, what would you say that is?
Yeah, there's probably two that come to mind. The first is just around like partnership. I always related to Ruth's story of just getting fucked over, frankly. I've been fucked over in my career many times and it stings. And you always think, well, what did I do wrong? And sometimes it's not you, it's the person that you partnered with.
Right.
Um, so that's a big one. And I think people can relate to that in business, but in, relationships, friendships, family, your neighbor, whatever it may be.
Sure.
And then the other that, Alex, who's the journalist from Vox, says so well is just kind of around corporate greed and like what's wrong with being a company that makes $50 million a year. Like, why do you need to be trying to make $500 million a year? Um, and we see it right now too in the media landscape of all these companies gobbling each other up and trying to be
Sure.
bigger and bigger and bigger. And I think that again, while it's about boutique fitness and indoor cycling, I think that speaks to, I mean, you see it in fashion, you see it in hospitality, you see it in media, you see it in restaurants, like just this like desire to always be bigger and bigger and bigger. And why can't you just be really good for a specific small group? Like, is that not enough?
Yeah, no, absolutely. The rampant need for growth is inherent, really, in American society, and I think driven by obviously the stock market. I don't know if any of these companies were public, but I mean that would have been a huge
Peloton,
driver,
yeah, was a big one. And I
right?
mean, and so crazy that Mr. Big in, and just like
Oh
that,
man, yeah,
dying on a bike, it literally plummeted their
I
stock.
know that's horrible.
It's wild that like an episode of television could impact the stock like that. So yeah, the Peloton and then Soul Cycle obviously was absorbed by Equinox,
Right.
which I believe is privately held still. So, but yeah, it's like it is American greed is a real thing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I wonder if any of the writers of the show Sex and the City perhaps were Peloton owners and got sold up beforehand.
Yeah, exactly. Insider trading.
Yeah, there you go. So how does it feel to have your film premiere at Tribeca, and what is kind of next on the horizon for you?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, this was my directorial debut, which was really fun and a cool experience to put on that hat. I work very closely with filmmakers as a producer, but hadn't really taken that role myself.
Right,
Um, so again, it was a very personal story, and I literally am still pinching myself over the premiere and we had 4 screenings and the reception was great. Um, so I couldn't be more excited. And kind of getting everyone together was a really fun, a lot of it was shot in different cities and different times. And so a lot of the cast hadn't met each other or hadn't seen each other, and most of them hadn't seen the movie yet. So that was also very exciting to witness.
Nice, awesome. Did you go to all four screenings?
I went to the first two, and then it was my time to leave New York City. But yeah, I went to the first two, and it was very fun.
Yeah, no, I thought it was cool how, even beyond the first screening, some of the films had representatives there for all of the screenings. So it was
Yeah,
neat as someone who didn't get to see every film at its premiere, you still got a little taste of people associated with the film.
yeah.
That's great. Any other docs on the horizon for you? You're going to go back to just producing full time.
So I now work at a company called Shadow Lion, which is Tom Brady's company. So
Oh, very cool.
I traded in basketball for football. And yeah, we're making a lot right now. We have a series called All In IndyCar that's kind of like a Hard Knock style doc series about IndyCar.
Great.
Our episode around the Indy 500 just dropped last week, which was exceptional. And again, I think I'm not really a sports fan. I've made so many sports docs, and I always am trying to suck in the person who's maybe the like partner or sibling or roommate of the sports fan. Which I kind of brought that into Spin Wars of like, I know there's a ton of people who have never stepped foot into an indoor cycling class. How can you make it entertaining for someone who's maybe never worn a pair of spin shoes in their entire life?
Absolutely. Well, we're running out of time. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we say goodbye?
No, I appreciate the support, and yeah, I'm excited for more people to see the movie, and I thank you for the time in your busy schedule.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for your time and definitely let us know when it's out there in the world where anyone can download it or watch it on their service of choice.
Will do. Nice to meet you, Dave.
You too, Phil. Have a great one and see you later.
Cool.